What is up, Gravity Gang? Welcome to episode 5. Today we're joined by our very, very special guest, Mark. Thank you for joining. Sam, anything you want to say to Mark before we kick off?
I love you.
I love you too.
All right, man. So thank you for joining. As I said, it's been a long time coming, this one. We planned it, and now we're finally here, and we can have the conversation that we've been waiting to have. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, how we know each other, perhaps, and what actually got you into training?
Okay, starting with the first one, a little bit about myself. So start with the boring stuff. I'm an actuary. No one's going to know what that is, but basically for anyone that's wondering, we basically do the maths for insurance companies. So we're consultants that specialize in insurance companies and banks, that type of thing. But that's the boring stuff. I don't like to talk about that much. What else can I say about myself?
How old are you? How tall are you? How much do you weigh?
27. I am 6 foot tall, 5'11" and a half.
No, that's cap. That's cap because I'm 5'11", and he's way taller than me. So he's not 5'11" and a half.
That makes me 6'2". So
Yeah.
agree on that.
Yeah, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so I'm 6 foot tall. I am currently about 83.5 kg. Well, I'm trying to get that up a bit, but yeah, that's broadly where I am. What else can I say about myself? I live in Wapping, which is where we are now. So this is my flat, although apologies for the mess. How do I know you? We've been friends since year 7, which has been, 15 years?
That's a long, long time. Yeah, for anyone who's listening from outside of the UK, that's basically since the age of 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we used to sit together in a lot of our classes. I remember art in year 7 with Miss Cavanagh. And this was back before we had all of the wireless headphones stuff, the Bluetooth headphones and stuff. And so remember I had my Walkman phone and we had the wired headphones and we used to share.
Yeah.
You just have one in your ear, I'd have one in mine. And I'd play the wettest music ever because I used to listen to shitty pop music all the time.
So nothing's changed then with regards to music?
No, nothing's changed. Not going to lie.
So just a little bit more background as well. So Mark, as you can tell, he's a specimen of human movement, as Conor McGregor likes to say. And the reason is because he's always been athletic.
Have I?
Yeah. You've been playing. We used to play football all the time back at school, and Mark was definitely playing every day. So yeah,
that's fair.
Carries over from there. So okay, awesome. What got you into training then?
So this will be going back to, say, year 7. I think I was always the kind of skinny kid in the class. So I had a lot of self-esteem issues. So I did actually consider starting a gym when I was a teenager, but then I always got told, I don't know who told it to me, or maybe I found it on Google, but I always heard that if you start a gym really early, it would stunt your growth or your development or things like that. So I remember I didn't start until, I think I started with you actually. We went to Apples in Romford.
We did.
Shout out to Apples in Romford and any of the PTs there whose names I can't remember. Do you remember that mixed race PT? That's the only one I can remember.
No, I just remember the setup. It wasn't Romford either. It was
Wasn't it?
It was on the way to Romford.
No,
It was Newbury Park. Yeah.
That's the one. I'm pretty sure half our school used to go to that gym as well. I don't know why it was that.
Shout out to everyone who went to Ilford County.
Ilford County. What was our form again? 7Q? Shout out to Q. But yeah, so I started going there with you in, I think it was year 11, or no, I think it was sixth form, wasn't it? Year 12. So we were around 16. And I'm pretty sure we remember the Calisthenics program that we used to do.
Another shout out, Jeff Cavalier, the absolute goat, who got us into
he's
training.
Still around as well, like he still does shit.
Yeah, man.
Some of his stuff.
My guy, he literally hasn't aged in 10, 15 years. I saw he looks exactly the same.
But he still looks like he's 50. So he just always looked like he's 50. But yeah, we used to follow that program quite religiously. We went to gym 3 times during the week, and then we'd sometimes go on the weekend as well. We didn't have football, I remember. We followed that, and that kind of got me into it. I think that was really helpful because it meant that I didn't have to come up with my own routines. We kind of did the Calisthenics routines, although you adapted it a bit if we didn't have specific equipment or there were specific exercises he did that we just couldn't be asked to do because we didn't find that useful. But that was, I think, my first experience of going to a gym. And I have to say, at the time, I didn't actually like going to the gym. I just saw it as a kind of means to an end. I only did it because I knew I needed to get bigger, but I didn't actually enjoy myself that much there. I only really enjoyed the kind of social element because all of our friends used to go at around the same time as well, straight after school. Um, that was my first experience. Then we also had the really shitty gym in our school as well.
Another shout out, Mr. P. If you're still around, man.
Is that Podolski or Podolski?
I can't remember.
Oh shit, that's a footballer.
I can't remember, but he was an absolute unit.
Sorry,
Absolute
I think
unit.
that sounded racist. But yeah, he was a unit. I still remember exactly what he looks like as well. But yeah, we didn't really go to that school gym that much. But I remember, shout out to Kajesh, because I remember we went to the gym my first time at that school gym, and Kajesh was like the only one that was able to bench press like 50 kg, which sounds so shite now, given that, I mean, we're doing double that easily, or probably even more than that. But I remember being so impressed and so gassed for him at the time. I think he was like the only one that could do 50 kg.
I think there's only one other person, Rikesh.
That's who I was
But
gonna
Rikesh
mention.
did way more. I think Rikesh managed to do like 90 to 100 kg. I'm sure he'll probably listen to this at some point. But
When he was 16.
yeah, man, he's a unit. That guy's different gravy. Different gravy.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him on Instagram a few times. He's quite swole. But yeah, so we went to Apples until left for uni. I think I put on a bit of size between when I started at Apples and when we left for uni, but I think I was still quite skinny because I think my mindset was all wrong back then. I just looked at it as an additional job that I had to do after school. So it was just work. I didn't take it that seriously. I don't think I really pushed myself, except in the exercises that I was good at, which from memory were all of the back exercises. But I think genetically black people just tend to be quite good at back exercises. And then I think my squat was quite good as well, but my bench was quite woeful, and I think my pull-ups were all right. I can't remember. I don't think we did weighted pull-ups back then. It was just normal pull-ups and chin-ups. And we used to do a lot of leg press, which I was quite good at. So I think my best points back then, which I actually worked at, were back and leg, because I always felt gassed when I was getting PBs. But for the others, I kind of neglected the exercise. And when I started at uni, so I went to uni at LSE, and they had a really good gym. It's just when you combine gymming at uni with the amount of alcohol I used to drink, as you can imagine in your first year, it just wasn't a great combination. So I think I averaged like once a week of going to the gym at uni, and that was purely so I could tell myself that I went to the gym and therefore I was doing everything that I could be doing to better myself, even though obviously that wasn't actually the case. Then after LSC, so I did that for around 3 years on off at the gym, and then in the summer I just took breaks because I couldn't be asked to go to Apples when I was back at home. It didn't help that my parents refused to buy me a car, and I just really couldn't be fucked to commute all the way to Newbury Park from Loughton, which is where I used to live. Shout out to my parents if you're watching this, by the way. They might actually watch this.
Shout out to my parents. Thanks for giving me birth, yo.
Yeah, shout out to my siblings as well. But yeah, then after LSE, I started at Cass Business School, which is City University. Oh, I probably should have said at the beginning. So I'm an actuary. I also did actuarial science at uni, which is, I'd kind of call it like the feeder degree for the actuarial profession. But I literally only did it because when you're an actuary, you have to do a lot of professional exams. But by doing the actuarial degree and the actuarial masters I subsequently did at City University, I managed to get exempted from 12 out of the 15 exams. Having said that, I failed the only exam I had to take like 5 times. But yeah, who knows where I'd be if I actually had to sit all 15. But yeah, so I started at Cass Business School. The gym was actually a lot better there because it was refurbished. And this was when I started doing HIIT. I don't actually know why I started doing hits because I've never been fat. I've always been quite skinny, and so if anything, you'd assume that I should be doing less cardio, not more. But I think I just got it into my head, probably from Google or maybe even from you, that hit can increase muscle growth.
Yeah, no, I would have never have told you that.
Probably from Google then.
Yeah.
Or it might have been because I was playing football at uni, and so I needed to get my fitness up. But fitness in the sense that I needed to be able to do like quick short bursts of sprints rather than just being able to jog for 2 hours or whatever.
So that's funny you mentioned HIIT, because I was having a conversation about this the other day, and I'm sure you'll touch upon this because you're quite passionate about it. Many people start HIIT to lose weight, but it's actually it's not the most inefficient way, but it's not the best way to go about losing weight. If you really want to burn fat, you're better off walking as much as possible and kind of doing low level forms of like cardiovascular exercise. If you're doing it to just, as you say, have really kind of short bursts of energy, overall feel better and kind of improve your overall health, then yeah, HIIT probably is a good thing to do maybe once a week. But for a beginner, especially those of you who may be a bit overweight and maybe shouldn't really be doing these sort of exercises because like the load you'll be putting on your joints, don't jump into a HIIT class. Literally start 30 minutes on a treadmill, maybe on an incline. You'll actually burn way more fat. I'm sure you probably know the science behind it a lot more than I do, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, he's completely right. Every time that we have clients come to us and they're severely overweight, and they really want to start in the gym, but they have no motivation, no exercise history or training age or whatever, the worst thing that you can do is go and do HIIT. And the reason why I say that is because it's a very humbling training method. And it can also leave you completely flattened by the end of it, especially if you're someone with no training age. Sorry, when I say training age, I mean, the number of years that you've trained in the gym for consistently, right? So for me, it's 5, minus the time that we were in school. Obviously for Sam, it's different. For Mark, it's different. But yeah, Sam's completely right. The stress it puts on your joints, but more in the way of longevity of your training, the stress it puts on your mind is very understated. So the best thing you can do is like Sam said, go for a walk, be consistent with it, go for a walk every day, try and get to 10,000 steps every day, be consistent with that, change your eating habits over time, and then, yeah, you can start making your way through to the harder training methods. Anyway, Mark, keep going back to the Cass Business School gym.
Yep, back to Cass Business School. So yeah, I did a lot of HIIT back then. Not gonna lie, it was quite short-lived because I realized I wasn't really putting on that much size. Like ever since I started, like when I was 16, I put on a lot of strength, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't getting much bigger, and that's fundamentally why I started at the gym in the first place. And then I obviously knew it was because I wasn't in a calorie surplus, which is probably the most important thing in terms of getting bigger. And the reason for that is because, well, when I was at Cass, I was living at home. And so I wasn't buying my own food. I was kind of like eating whatever my parents or my sister would make. And, I wouldn't have like the ridiculous portion sizes that I'd have now if I'm making my own food. And so it meant that it was quite difficult to get into a calorie surplus. And so I thought, okay, given that it's quite hard for me to get the calorie intake, maybe I should restrict the cardio that I'm doing, bearing in mind that I was playing football as well. And so it all kind of adds up. And so when I finished at Cass Business School and got the job at PwC, I think the summer before PwC, I stopped doing any form of cardio apart from football. I actually went back to apples very temporarily because I had this stupid idea in my mind that I'd be able to make ridiculous progress in 2 months and then impress people when I started at PwC and probably be the one actuary in the whole of the company with any form of muscle.
And then you met Andy and you were like, yeah.
Who's Andy?
Oh, shots fired.
But yeah, so anyway, so then I started at PwC. And then I moved to Wapping. So I've lived in Wapping for the last 5 years. Not in this specific flat. In this specific flat, probably around a year and a half. Although I'm actually about to move to the flat downstairs. So that's another story. So then when I started living in Wapping in 2017, I started going to the Fitness First, which is just down my road. So I've been going to that Fitness First ever since. I kind of know everyone there. It's kind of a small community. I know a lot of the PTs that work there as well, and I'm really comfortable there. But I think that's when my mentality towards the gym started to change. I'm trying to think about what exactly triggered the change. I suspect it's because I was surrounded by, obviously I'm close to you guys, and obviously I'm close to Andy, who is probably the only one in my department that's bigger than me. And I feel like I kind of got, it really pained me to say that. I have no idea how much it pained me to say that. I feel like I kind of got peer pressured by all of you guys. And this was before you started taking calisthenics seriously. This was just when you just gym at Pure Gym or whatever. And I think because of the peer pressure and my insane ego and vanity, it kind of changed my mentality a bit. I appreciate for the wrong reasons at the time, but it did change my mentality. I put in a lot more work 2017 and 2018. And then, so I was going to the gym around 3 to 4 times a week on average. I did drop off a bit in 2019 because I really couldn't be asked. Like, work was getting busier. I was also studying for this exam that I just failed for the 4th time. So it started to add up a bit in terms of what I had to do outside of the gym. So it kind of tailed off a bit. But then 2020, the COVID year, I think that was probably the best thing to ever happen to me in terms of my progress, because that was when literally all we could do during that lockdown period was wake up, eat, work, and do some exercise. This was back before, I think there was like a period of time where we weren't even allowed to go outside, apart from, you know, the bit of exercise that you could do, the cardio. But I wasn't interested in cardio, to be honest.
They even fenced off all the Cali parks. You couldn't even technically do. I mean, people used to unofficially used to go there
over the Primrose.
I mean, unofficially, no, we didn't, but we still managed to make gains somehow, right?
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Yeah, I've never even heard of Primrose, but yeah, go on.
But yeah, so during the 2020 year, I started taking exercise a lot more seriously. I remember ordering all sorts of shit off of Amazon and then being really pissed off because I was given a delivery date like a month or 2 in the future, because everyone had the same idea. So the camera probably can't see it at the moment, but over there is like a lot of the equipment that I bought over lockdown, which I don't use anymore because like we can go to the gym now. But over there, if you can't see it in the camera, is a 20 kg weighted vest, some rings, some bands as well. And then under my sofa that you're sat on, I've got my dip station, I think it's called, obviously disassembled. And then on my balcony, I've got my gravity pull-up mate thing. I can't remember what it's called. That can be assembled so that you can do pull-ups at home. And so I took all of this limited stuff that I was able to do, I took it very seriously, because it was literally the only thing that I could do in my spare time outside of work and talking to friends on Zoom, to be honest. And I also dirty bulked through that year as well, because I was cooking for myself, wasn't relying on my parents, so I was making the portion sizes that I actually wanted. I arguably went a bit too ham in that I used to be about 81 kg back in 2020. I went up to 96 at the end of 2020, and you could tell I was 96 kg. Let's just say that. You'll probably see on my Instagram from around that period, there are a couple of pictures where I look a bit more, what's the politically correct way of saying fat?
No, you can say that. That's fine.
But yeah, I looked a bit more fat. Like, it wasn't extreme, but I was visibly a bit more fat. But I was also relatively happy with that because I was making a lot more progress in the limited amount of gym exercises that I was able to do at my flat. And so I was happy with that progress. I was happy with my strength gains. And then when we got the dates, I think it was like March 2021, I want to say, where gyms were allowed to reopen. That was when I thought, okay, I need to cut off this excess fat and then get back into an actual gym and actually take it seriously. I think that's when my mentality started to shift, because I actually realized, oh, I'm actually quite decent at this. Like, I'm actually making a lot of gains. I'm actually quite strong at the moment. I got a lot bigger. And so I know you'll probably post my before and after picture at some point, but the before picture was from, I want to say, the beginning of 2021. So this was when Cali Parks were reopened, and we went to Primrose on like a bike ride, and then we did exercises in Primrose. I took a picture there.
I didn't realize that was 2021. I thought that was
Pretty sure.
2020.
It might have been 2020, but it was like when Cali Parks were first allowed
Yeah,
to
because
reopen.
Primrose, I recognize the background, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so I thought I was quite decently sized back then, but I look at that picture now and I feel like I looked anorexic, to be honest. But I guess it's all relative. You're always going to say that about yourself when you look at the before pictures. But then I took a picture the other day and I hadn't appreciated how much of an increase in size that there was, bearing in mind that in the before picture I was about 82 kg, and then in this after picture I'm currently around 83.5. But the body recomposition has been quite insane. And so when I was at my heaviest, 96 kg, back at the beginning of 2021, and I realized I needed to cut, I then went on a really insane cut and dropped from 96 to around 85 by April 2021. Because I've always weirdly found it very easy to put on weight, but also very easy to lose weight as well. So I have, I think, a different attitude towards dirty bulking, because I appreciate that, yeah, it's probably better to lean bulk, but I also have no issues of losing weight. Like, if I wake up one morning and look in the mirror and decide that I'm a bit too fat, I will literally just not eat for the whole day until I lose the bloat, and then I can also like heavily reduce the amount of eating that I do for that entire week, just to reduce the stomach gains. But yes, I've never really had an issue with the whole dirty bulking versus cutting thing. I kind of just do it in cycles. So I've ranged, I think, over the last 2 years between 80 kg and around 96. And to be honest, I will probably go up to around 96 again after, well, not 96, but around 90 again after I've done my weighted calisthenics competition in December.
So let's just touch upon that, because so for those of you that don't know, Mark's actually one of our students, and you know, we've been training him quite strictly, I want to say, over the last, what has it been, 4 months, and yeah, he's made phenomenal progress, as he said. But one thing he hasn't perhaps touched upon yet is the progress that he's made with his weighted calisthenics game. So you just touched upon the competition, that's Body Strong. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of it. I think actually we talked about it with Andy in the last episode. So why don't you just give us a quick sort of glance over what you've been doing for Body Strong, and you know, where you are right now in terms of your weighted calisthenics strength.
Yep, so for anyone that didn't watch the podcast with Andy, so Body Strong is a 1 rep max weighted calisthenics competition with 4 exercises. So you're doing a 1 rep max of the squats, then the same for a weighted dip, then the same for a weighted muscle up, and then the same for a weighted pull up / chin up. And you guys competed last year. Yeah. At the time, I was too pussy to. Oh shit! Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
I was too much of a pussy at the time, because I thought my ego meant that I wasn't willing to compete in a competition where I didn't think I'd have any hope of not coming last. But I still came to watch you guys anyway, and I think that was my first experience of that type of competition where it just became clear no one really cares like how good or bad
you're there for yourself.
people are. Like, obviously people will say, oh, this guy is insane. Like, shout out to Shaquille. I doubt he'll watch this, but shout out to Shaquille nonetheless. And Kwame?
Yeah,
Shout
Kwame,
out to him. No, those are the only 2 names I remember. But I remember watching them and thinking, okay, I'm obviously not going to achieve that anytime soon. But then I was watching all of the other people. Like, obviously you guys did well, but there were some other people that didn't do as well. But I still thought, I really respected them for competing anyway, and I was really inspired by them doing it. And so I told myself, okay, no matter what happens, I'm going to compete at the next Body Strong. I was expecting the next Body Strong to be in March/April time, similar to last year. So it was a bit of a shock when I found out it was actually going to be over the Christmas time, because I thought, oh shit, that's 3 months of less preparation. But I think my attitude towards that type of competition has completely changed, in that I'm not expecting to come top. I'm not expecting to even come top 3. I'm not sure how many people there will be in the one I'm competing at. I assume it will be around 15 or 20. I mean, I obviously don't want to come last, but I don't think I will come last. But equally, if I do, I'm just going to be really proud that I've competed, to be honest. And that's going to be my main takeaway from the day. Obviously, if I qualify for nationals, so to qualify for nationals, you have to come top 3. Obviously, if I qualify for nationals, I'll be over the moon. But equally, in terms of my weighted Cali progress, which we'll come to later, I've made a lot of progress over the last, when did we start? April, I want to say. So it's been around 6 months. I've made a lot of progress over the 6 months. I'm probably going to stick to weighted Cali in the long term, because my fundamental goal from back in the day was getting bigger. Weighted Cali will get you bigger, as well as the normal weights stuff that I do. And I do both. A bit less of the weights stuff now because I'm training for this competition, but I do both. So I do like the standard deadlift, bench press, that type of thing. So even though I probably won't come in the top positions for this Body Strong, I will probably compete in the next Body Strong and possibly in the one after. And I think if I keep up the progress that I've made over the last 6 months, then there's no reason why I can't eventually be one of the top 5, I'll say, rather than top 3.
Exactly. Like the thing that he's just touched upon there, which is so important to understand, is if you're a beginner and you want to try and achieve crazy numbers, you've got to remember that a lot of the guys who are getting these top positions have been training highly specifically for a lot longer. So Mark, you've only been doing weighted calisthenics for 6 months. I'll give the guys some of your numbers. So Mark's at the moment, he's dipping more than 70. Is it 75 now? 70 for reps. 72 and a half for reps. He's pulling, was it 45? 47 and a half?
50.
Sorry, 50. He's pulling 50 for reps. Now, for anyone who knows anything about weighted, or forget even that, anyone who knows anything about bodyweight exercises, people understand how hard a pull-up is. People understand how hard a dip is. He's doing it with an additional weight of 72 and a half and 50 kg for both of those exercises. So it really just goes to show you that if you are consistent with your training and you have a good training program, then you can make phenomenal progress in such a short period of time, 6 months. What did you start on when we started training together?
So dips, I started on 45. And then pull-ups, so chin-ups, we started with pull-ups rather than chin-ups. I only transitioned to chin-ups in around September. But for pull-ups, I think I was doing around 30 kg.
There you go. So, like that, I think that just says it all. A near 30 kg increase in his dips. It's almost double for both of them. Yeah, it's insane. So, everyone who's at Body Strong, watch out for this guy. He's going to be shifting some big weight on the day.
Yeah, Body Strong 2023, probably not 2022. Don't worry, Shaquille.
Yeah, one thing I also want to touch upon is how you said that although you don't necessarily think you'll get like first, second, third, or fourth, but that doesn't really matter as long as you know you've done your best. And kind of the main point of that is how good you feel at the end of, say, a competition or a specific goal or a specific day is directly correlated to the amount of effort that you've put in. The guy who's come first but has put full effort in won't get as much of like a dopamine rush and won't be as proud of his work than the guy who maybe even came second to last but worked every single day for a whole year. So as long as you're willing to put the work in, you will feel good afterwards. And it's that kind of attitude that long term will enable you to push into those top 3 ones, because obviously you're not stupid, right? Like, you know what your expectations are. 6 months is probably not enough time for you to like start a weighted Cali game and then come into the top 3. Like a lot of these guys, one, they've got better genetics for it and anatomy. But obviously, some of them have been doing it for years and years. So you should definitely be proud of the work that you've been doing. And then, kind of, it's the ultimate kind of combination of a good training program and also the willingness to put the work in. And honestly, you can achieve anything. Me and Nissan, when we did our initial Body Strong, we had 3 months to prepare, but we went balls deep in it. I mean, we treated it as if like we were going in there to win. Even though we knew that we weren't, we never doubted ourselves once. We were nervous on the day. I mean, you came second last, I came last, but that was still the best thing to ever happen. Someone on the outside might say, what was the point? You prepared for a competition just to come last. Like, lol, you losers, what was the point? That was probably my favourite 3 months of training ever, just having that competition to prepare for. But just being there, like, we were so gassed to be around these other people that were pulling. And since then, we've never, I would say for me specifically, after doing that comp, that was when I was like, fuck that, this is what I want to be doing for life. Not just weighted caddy, but just train and just see how far you can push things in any avenue that you do. So if you guys have got a competition to sign up for, even if you think you're going to be way worse than like everyone there, sign up for it. But also don't just sign up for it. Sign up for it and actually put effort into it. If you're going to sign up for it and just half-ass it, I don't really see the point in it, because then at the end you'll be like, oh, I didn't really achieve much, and you'll feel shit. But then you need to be honest with yourself and be like, well, you didn't put the work in.
Yeah, and like literally what Sam says, like even if you are going to enter a competition and you don't feel like you're going to achieve much, the fact is even, and Mark's just said this, right? When he went to watch us at Body Strong last year, he had mad respect for everyone there who even competed, because what they're doing is they're putting themselves out there in the eye of everyone else, and they're putting on as the best show that they can, right? So it doesn't actually matter where you come. It doesn't matter what you're pulling. It doesn't matter what you're dipping. None of that shit matters. At the end of the day, it's the willingness to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And it's that very first time when you're there, that's when you can then progress and move on. And like, you know, you look at our progression since Body Strong, right? We then went to Coliseum in Gym Box. We both did a lot better. Yeah. A lot better. So, you know, and then, you know, next time I think we're competing in Coliseum next week, next Sunday. I think we'll do even better than we did in the last one. So it really is just a chain reaction, and it's a nice way to kind of push yourself into the deep end and really challenge not just your body but your mentality as well. And you know, Mark's about to find that out. Like he's put in incredible work over the last 6 months, but on competition day it's a different ball game, because now you're like, oh shit, I'm here, I'm going to perform. And I promise you, by the way, anyone who thinks that they'll be nervous during the day, I promise you, if you put the work in, like Sam says, your body will take over. You won't even have to think about it.
But also, this is one thing I love to say is I think you should be nervous. Or not that you should. Being nervous before you do something is a good sign, because that means that there's this barrier that your body and mind are just like, you want to go above it. Basically, being nervous, it means you're afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, that means that whatever you're trying to achieve is worth something to you. It means that it's a massive barrier that once you overcome it, you've now almost elevated yourself. And now that ceiling is now your baseline. So if you feel nervous before you're doing anything, that's normally a massive sign that means that something good's about to happen. As long as you try your best. I mean, whenever I used to do those handstands on like somewhere which is quite dangerous, I would always feel nervous. And every time I was nervous, I would end up getting it. The times I wasn't nervous, I would never get it, because for me, there's not enough on the line. So if you're nervous beforehand, one, it's completely normal. But two, I actually think you should embrace the nerves and push through it.
No pressure.
No pressure. Don't, we'll be there to support you.
So I want to take this conversation into a particular direction, because I know this is something that you wanted to talk about. So we've kind of covered Mark's training history. We've talked about what his goals are, at least in the immediate future. But what I want to bring it back to is how important it is not to compare yourself to others in a negative way. And this is something, Mark, that you said that you've struggled with in the past. So do you want to just touch upon what you feel the importance is when it comes to comparing, you know, yourself with others, how you do it in a positive way, and, you know, some of the mistakes you've made in the past?
Well, I mean, you say mistakes I've made in the past. I'm not going to lie, I still make the same mistakes now. I mean, we've all got Instagram, we've all got TikTok. We're always going to see people that are better than us, a lot better than us, no matter how good that we get. And so sometimes it's just a bit shit when maybe you've had a bad day at the gym, or maybe you've even had a good day, but you just see someone else on one of the Instagram stories that's clearly had a better day. And I don't think I'm there yet in terms of changing my mentality and not caring about how other people do. Because at the end of the day, I'm still, I think that's just a fundamental part of my personality. Like, I will always want to be the best. Ideally, my personality would be such that I'd always want to be the best that I can be. But at the moment, I'm just at this stage where I'm thinking, I just want to be the best. But I won't be the best, because you can't realistically be the best at stuff like this, especially if you've only been training for 6 months in the weighted Cali game, probably six to 12 months in the like normal calisthenics game as well. So yeah, I'm not there yet in terms of making sure I don't compare myself to others, and every now and then I will have a bad day and feel a bit shit if I feel like I'm not making progress on an exercise. But at the end of the day, the fact that I have those bad days then makes it that much better when I have a good day. So, and we haven't really touched on this, but I do try and do some like normal calisthenics exercises as well. So I've been working on the human flag over the last couple of months, which if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that's pretty much all I post on Instagram every Sunday. Because I live in Wapping, but we've got a calisthenics park literally just down my road, Shadwell Basin, that I go to on Sunday afternoons. So I do practice the flag every Sunday. I also practice muscle ups, because muscle ups is part of the competition. So I need to practice that anyway. I'm practicing the front lever. I practice the back lever sometimes here when I've got my pull up mate set up. So yeah, when I do have bad days, it means that when I do reach milestones in these other exercises that I do, I feel that much better about myself and proceed to plaster it all over Instagram to make sure that everyone knows that I've reached that milestone. But it won't even necessarily be like a massive milestone. Like with the human flag in terms of my progress, I don't think I'm there yet, in that I think I'm very close, but I don't think mine is anywhere near as good as yours yet in terms of the consistency. But I've made a lot of progress in the flag over the last 6 months, progress that I was expecting would take me around a year or two to make. And then the front lever, back when I was at my lightest, I did actually have it for like a second, admittedly, but just the fact that I had it, and the back lever as well, was a massive milestone for me. Although you will appreciate that calisthenics doesn't really go well with weight gain, and so it is a kind of balancing exercise in that I do need to put on some weight for the weighted Cali stuff, but then I also need to be worried that it's going to affect my normal calisthenics exercises as well. So I've shifted my mentality there, in that I don't get too disappointed if I'm not consistent with my flag, because I appreciate it's going to be hard when I'm weighing like so I was weighing around 87 when I first started training for the flag, and then I've been kind of flip-flopping between like 90 and 83, which I am now. I kind of appreciate I'm never going to be consistent with this type of exercise in the short term, and so I'm actually quite comfortable with that.
I think that's quite a big milestone to come to in your training journey, is being comfortable with and kind of knowing how your body works and being comfortable with whatever progress you're likely to make. So I'm kind of at the same point with you, whereby right now for winter, I kind of want to bulk up, and I've accepted that by doing that, I may not get front lever as quickly, but because I'm genuinely fine with that, I enjoy my training a lot more. So I think that's a big milestone to come to. It's, I think a lot of people, they're not too strict on themselves. Like, I have to reach this by this day, and then when they don't get it, they're like, oh well, I'm just not made for this sport, fuck it, I'll go and do CrossFit or whatever. So there's nothing wrong with readjusting your goals, as long as you're kind of cognizant of your abilities and where your strengths lie, and you still put effort into your training. And it kind of sounds like that's what you're doing right now. As long as overall you're seeing progress, I think that should be your main determining factors. Like, are you progressing on a daily or more on a weekly basis? Are you improving? Then you're doing something. Okay, one goal may not take you as long. And the fact is that whilst you say it's taken you 6 months to make progress, human flag is not your main goal. I can guarantee you if you'd put this weighted calisthenics to the side and you just focus on flag, you probably would have had it by now. But kind of the more goals you have at the same time, you have to accept that you will not get them at a faster rate. But if you're happy with that, then so be it.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Like, obviously, the more goals you have, the slower you'll progress in anything. But at the same time, you will make some progress in individual exercises week to week or month to month. And so regardless of what exercise I make progress in, I'm very happy with that, even if it's not the same exercise week to week. So I haven't really progressed much in the flag over the last, I'd say, month or so, in that I'm able to get straight, but my arse sags a bit. I don't know why. I need to work on that.
Big bunda.
Yeah. Perks of being African. But yeah, I completely agree with you. My mindset has changed in that regard.
There's also massive carryover with certain exercises, which is why I think calisthenics is the best, specifically weighted calisthenics. If you get I was actually talking to a guy at the gym yesterday who's just starting calisthenics and he didn't really know what to do. And he's a bit of a taller, bigger guy. And I said, mate, just get really strong at weighted pull-ups or chin-ups and get a really strong weighted dip. Because I guarantee you then when you want to stay, mate, you might get bored of it. And then maybe you want to go and do your planche, your front lever, your muscle ups. Those exercises have massive carryover. Whereas if you maybe get very good at bench press or some other exercises, the carryover isn't quite as there and it's not as efficient.
Yeah, that's, glad you've touched on that. And actually, this is something that Mark has experimented with whilst he's been training under us. Mark, you're probably best to tell the guys, but how has the carryover from weighted calisthenics been to the staple gym exercises? I think we did a test, 3-4 weeks ago? So
the test in terms of like my PRs for each of the body strong exercises. I think
no, not the body strong exercises. I mean your PRs for traditional gym exercises like bench press, bent over row. How those have gone? Yeah.
So start with the bench press. I rarely do bench press anymore. I don't have the time or the energy after doing a huge weighted dip session. I might do the occasional tricep isolation exercise in my warm-up or what's the opposite of warm-up? Cool down. But other than that, I don't really go heavy with the traditional gym exercises anymore. But having said that, when I used to deadlift, and so I stopped deadlifting before we started, but I did do it every now and then for that month where I wanted to do like normal gym exercises. My deadlift was at around 160 when I stopped. So 160 kg for 6 reps back in March. And then when I did the kind of experiment, it got to around 190 in September, bearing in mind I hadn't touched deadlift in like 6 months.
Is that for reps?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm too scared to do 1 rep max of deadlift. I feel like I'll really fuck something because I don't really train it. So. And then bench press as well. I don't really train bench press that much, but equally I was benching around 100 kg for reps back in around March, April time. I'm now doing about 115. And again, I don't train that. And then I think those are kind of the main traditional exercises that I'd say I do miss to an extent, but I'm not bothered because I know I'm going to progress in them regardless, because of the weighted dip that I'm doing or the other, like the muscle ups and stuff that I'm doing. Other one I wanted to touch on as well was the shoulder press. I don't train shoulder press, but I think of all of my muscles, my shoulders are probably the strongest part of my. But I think this is just a genetics thing because I don't train it. I know a lot of other Africans have quite good shoulders as well, but I used to shoulder press about 55 kg back in March time for around 6 to 8 reps. I now do around 75.
It's just silly. It's literally just silly.
Again, I don't train shoulder press, but I think weighted dips, there is a lot of work done by your shoulders, and so it's just a product of that. I think the weighted dip is just very versatile. And I think before, when I used to do the weighted dip, my form wasn't great. I thought it was great at the time. It wasn't that good back in April when I watched the videos back. Now I think I've really cleaned up the form, but I guess I've had to because Body Strong is very strict on form. Like, you'll get disqualified if it's not literally perfect. And so I think it's a combination of cleaning up the form, making a lot of progress in terms of the weights. That's just really helped with these other more traditional exercises. But I'm not really going to touch shoulder press, bench press, or deadlift again until Christmas, just after the Body Strong competition. So I'll probably experiment there and see how much I've increased since then. A product of how much I increased there will of course be based on my weight. So these exercises are a lot easier if you weigh more because you've got more muscle. I'm currently around 83. I think my ideal weight will be around 87. So I think if I was to do a bench press now, I wouldn't be breaking any PBs. I'd probably be doing the same that I did back in September, to be honest. But I think in December, I'd back myself to do significantly heavier.
I think one of the most underrated things with weighted calisthenics is the amount of stability that's required to perform these movements. So I don't think it's a two-way street. I think weighted dips has a massive carryover to bench press. I don't think if you get very good at bench press, it necessarily means you'll be good at weighted dips because there's the element of stability which is not required. And most people who are insane at bench press, they're not fat, but you know what I mean. They're the kind of like huge Eastern European blokes, like good. They're probably too heavy to even dip themselves. Yeah. Matthew Zalat, who I think has the record for the highest dip, 195 is it? 1 rep max, 192
pounds,
kilos extra. So he weighs about 110, but he's an animal. He's been doing. I think he could bench like 130 when he was 13, and he was skinny as well. He wasn't even huge. He tried a bench press, I believe, within the last year, and he did 300 kg first time. So that carryover is crazy. And I think, would you agree, when they say that if you can get a pull-up that's 80% of your body weight extra, that kind of unlocks a one-arm pull-up / front lever to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think this is it's a very kind of interesting topic, and it really is kind of goes back to what we were saying, how you had that conversation with that guy in the gym, the knowledge that I've imparted to Mark in the last sort of 6 months is if you try and really concentrate on becoming super strong at the basics with additional weight, it really, really does carry over. And like Sam said, there's 2 reasons for that. Number one is the stability. So Mark's obviously found that, weighted dip requires a lot of stabilization. So the fact that he then takes it to the bench press where it's relatively grounded compared to the dip, and he can bench, 15 kg more than he was doing in March, it just, proofs in the pudding. But also number 2 is you're significantly overloading those muscles, right? So when you're doing a pull-up compared to a weighted pull-up, it's infinitely harder. And the same applies to the dip. And so that progressive overload, that element, which we know there's two elements of building muscle. Number 1 is progressive overload. Number 2 is sufficient protein. You're really hammering on that first one if you're doing weighted calisthenics, and you continuously try and progress the weight. So Mark right now in his program, he's only working in the 3 to 5 rep range. But because he's doing that, he's also building muscle and strength. And so when he does go back to those gym exercises, he can completely annihilate them because he's got all of that strength that he's built from those weighted calisthenics exercises. So you really, if you're someone who wants to start start calisthenics and you have no sort of understanding as to how to build strength for particular exercises like the planche, the front lever, the back lever, the human flag, take it from us. Weighted calisthenics is arguably the best way to be able to build a solid foundation, because once you can do, like we said, 80% of your body weight on a pull-up, then it's just a matter of learning the position of something like a front lever or practicing specific exercises for the one-arm pull-up, and you will unlock it.
Yeah, and there's kind of 2 other benefits to it. One, you're going to pack on a shit load of size. There's probably a lot of you that are watching this and think, look, Cali's cool, but I see too many people with chicken legs and they're just not that big. Whereas if you actually want to pack on size, I do genuinely feel like weighted calisthenics is one of the best ways to do it. So a good way that you can do it, which is kind of what I'm doing at the moment, and Isan to some extent, although you're kind of more super focused on planche and front lever. The way, if I also the optimum training for me was for pull, I would start with weighted pull-ups. Maybe the first session would be strength based, so maybe 3 to 5 reps, and then the second pull session would be more hypertrophy based. It'd be kind of 8 to 12 reps. So for pull, start with weighted pulls, and then afterwards do your normal gym stuff. So seated cable row, rear delt flies, biceps, whatever. And conversely for push, you would start with weighted dips. Again, first session strength, second session hypertrophy, and then you can finish off with your gym work, shoulder press, chest flies. Guarantee you do that, you will get the best of both. You will get insane stability. You will be shredded. You'll be super fucking strong. You'll be way stronger than most of those gym bros out there, and it's because you're doing exercises which are just not conventional. And I mean, we've been speaking about it for the last 15 minutes, so maybe you can change topic after. But yeah, I do think weighted calisthenics it's just insane.
So let's change the topic slightly, as you've kind of ushered it in. I guess the final kind of topic that I want to round up on is, what is it like to be a versus gravity student?
Not gonna lie, it doesn't really feel that much different to before, because I still used to talk to you a lot anyway about this stuff, send you videos of my exercises and stuff, get you to review and tell me what to do. I think the main difference is I've got a bit more structure in what I'm doing, whereas before when I used to go to the gym, I used to kind of freestyle. I'd just do whatever exercises I felt like doing. So I'd wake up in the morning knowing that I was about to go to the gym. I'd look in the mirror and think, oh, my chest looks a bit shit today. Guess it's a chest day. And then I go to the gym and I'd know I'm about to do a chest and tries day. And then the exercise that I do used to just be based on whatever I was in the mood to do and whatever was free and whatever I felt in the mood to get a PB on, which I guess that method has its pros and cons. I mean, I'd argue the main pro is that, I mean, they always say you need to shock your muscles, right? So what better shock to the system than not knowing what you're going to do until you actually get to the gym?
If Arnie ever listens to this, I hope you're proud. I hope you're proud of him.
But yeah, I think the structure has helped because it means I'm also using the app that we use. I'm also tracking the numbers more closely. Whereas before, I'd have a broad, like, high level overview of what numbers I was doing, but I'd go to the bench press and I'd be like, oh, what did I do last time again? 100, 95. Okay, let's start with 95 and see what happens. Whereas now, because I've got all of the numbers measured, I can be like, okay, weighted dip. I did 67.5 2 weeks ago. I did paused reps and I was able to get a PB on that last week. So let's try and get a PB on the normal weighted dip now and see what happens. And I think that structure has probably been one of the most useful things in terms of my progress. It will be that structure, but then also the second thing you introduced me to, which is paused reps, which I was quite shit at when I started. I think when I did weighted dips paused, so this is where you're doing 2 seconds going down, then 3 seconds at the bottom, then 1 second up, and so on for reps. On the weighted dip, I was doing about 25, 30 kg. I'm now doing about 55, I think the last time I checked. That's probably because I'd just never done paused reps before, and so it was just, like noob gains, I'd argue. But it also crossed over a lot with the traditional way of doing these exercises, and also really helped with my form, because obviously your form needs to be tight when you're down there and you're pausing. But then it meant that when I was doing the traditional way, it was a lot easier for me to do the form. So like the dip, for example, they're quite strict on the form at Body Strong. You have to make sure you get down to the back of your elbow being in line with the back of your shoulder. It was very difficult for me before, back in the day, to know when I was getting to that point unless I had a mirror. But then when I started doing the paused reps, you kind of get used to what it feels like when you're low enough. And so now when I do the paused reps and I watch some of the videos back, sometimes I actually feel like I'm going a bit too low. But I don't really notice because it doesn't really feel like I'm going too low. It feels like I'm going like just right. So maybe I am over-regging it a bit. But beforehand, sometimes I just wasn't getting low enough unless I had a mirror and I could watch myself go to that position. But we won't have mirrors at Body Strong. Pretty sure you didn't have mirrors at Body Strong.
I think they have people, they put their fists, say here, so that then you'll know when you... Is that what they had?
Yeah, they demonstrated it like that, I think. But then when it actually came to the lift, you just did it.
No,
Yeah, you just had a flag, rep or no rep.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably nothing to stop you having a friend that could literally be right next to you and then say more. Right, come back up. Like, you could do that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want that though. I feel like that will put me under pressure. I don't know. I'll have to experiment with that actually next time I go to the gym. But
Well,
yeah,
it's good getting feedback because I mean, you have 2 tries, we had 3 tries, but say on your first rep you could be going too low. So then me or Isan could be like, dude, next time you don't need to go as low. Like, you're wasting too much energy. And Paul, you'll know whether you're doing it right 'cause it's just full extension.
yeah, exactly. I think with the squat as well, because at my gym I've always got a mirror right in front of me and to the side, so I know exactly how low to go. I know when you did the competition that there weren't mirrors.
No.
When you were doing it, you kind of had to know when you were getting low. And I don't know what it is about it might be that I just don't really have much ankle mobility. I really don't think it's that though, because I'm quite flexible in general. I think it's just because my legs compared to my torso are quite long in terms of the proportion. So it's quite difficult for me on the squat in particular to get low enough unless I'm using either squat shoes or I just stand on some plates and just use those as my heels. But I've gotten a lot better over the last couple of months because of the paused reps, so I kind of have more of an idea of when I'm getting low enough. And obviously the safety bars on the side help, but I don't think we have safety bars at Body Strong. You just have 2 people that will kind of
you won't, like, worst case scenario is they'll pick you up. You're not going to die.
That'll be embarrassing. But yeah, so I kind of have more of a feel for when I'm getting low enough, and so I think that's been one of the biggest benefits.
So would you here's my nice little follow on question. Would you recommend versus gravity coaching to the wider people who want to get involved in exercise or calisthenics or training in general?
Definitely. Not gonna lie, you do irritate me sometimes in a good way.
I have to. Every coach has to be on your ass.
Accountability. We've banged on about it for 42 sessions. Yeah. You need people that are going to hold you accountable.
But yeah, I do find that beneficial though, because there have been some times where I'm just been like, oh, I can't be asked to go to the gym. Then I get a message from you. I'm like, fuck, okay, I need to go because he's gonna go on the app and see I haven't recorded anything. So fuck, I'm gonna go to the gym, do this fucking exercise. Shit, I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah, man. This is free. It's a free country.
Do this exercise and then get the measurements in, and then I've done my job for the day. I know I said before that I used to treat gym as additional work. Every now and then I do still treat it as additional work, but that's just when I've been really busy, like throughout the day. But like that doesn't happen often.
I think that's normal though, and I think actually kind of very briefly want to touch upon when you initially stated what your journey was like, how initially maybe you didn't enjoy it as much and you viewed it as work. I actually reckon 99% of people that start gym or any new hobby are going to view it that way. Don't think that we jumped into exercise and you were like, yay, oh my God, I love every second of it. Most of the time it's very much on and off. Like, funnily enough, I was reading through my old gratitude journals, or I used to journal every morning, like to-do lists and stuff.
You waste, man.
And it was from like 2 years ago, and literally most of the stuff I had written there was like, keep going to the gym, keep going to the gym. And it was so funny because that thought would never even cross my mind now. If anything, it's the opposite. I was supposed to deload this week. Have I deloaded? No. I've been to the gym twice, done pretty heavy sessions. So yeah, going back, it's like most people's journeys, it's absolutely normal. You probably will view it as work initially. So don't expect to always find it super fun, but trust me, the more you go afterwards, you'll learn to love it. And you'll find out what works for you. Maybe gym's not for you, maybe CrossFit's for you, maybe anything, but everything has carryover to the next thing. So just stick it through, or find people that are going to hold you accountable, either your friends or on online coaching systems, such as, it'd be funny if, like, I don't know, have you heard of an online coaching program?
No.
Have you not? I think it's called Versus Gravity, isn't it?
No.
Have you not? Well, don't listen to this guy's a fraud.
No, that's been really good. So I think let's wrap it up there. But thank you, Mark. You've been an absolute good egg today.
Do you want to plug anything?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. Do you want to plug anything?
Or do you have any questions for us?
Don't have questions for you. What can I plug? Like my Instagram?
Yeah, we'll
okay. He sings. He's got a beautiful voice.
And he's single.
Who says I'm single?
Ooh.
Damn.
I'm single. But yeah, I do sing. You see that on my Instagram. But that's like a side hustle, because I like to do as much as possible outside of boring work. So I do singing videos. I have dance classes on the weekend. You're going to start to see some TikToks from me.
Hell yeah.
Once I start getting very advanced. I think I'm a couple of months away from that. Then I do calisthenics. I go to the gym. I go clubbing a lot. Like, probably more so than is acceptable for someone at my age. But yeah, it's cardio though, right? And I'm getting my steps in,
listen,
I
if you're
suppose.
putting in the dance moves, then fine. It's cardio, man.
You drink either, do you?
I do. So I've got a different attitude, I think, to you guys, in that I know you guys are basically teetotal. Well, I know Isan is anyway, and you're like very sparing.
Every now and then I'll have a couple.
But with me, I still do drink. It's just, if I know I've got stuff to do the next day, then I won't drink. Like, there will be many times I'll go out clubbing and I just won't drink at all, because I do genuinely just enjoy clubbing, like for the music. I don't just go to try and take girls home
Because you can't.
I can't think of a witty comeback to that. So fuck you. But yeah, so I've got a different attitude. I still do drink. I think I'm a bit more careful than I used to be.
You're disciplined with it, essentially. That's what it comes down to.
very
We've got
disciplined.
other friends. You can do both, for sure. You
Yeah,
just
you just
as long
need
as you're
to-
disciplined with it.
Yeah, you need to be controlled, and you need to know your limits. You need to just know what works for you, what's going to fuck you up the next day. You know what the best idea is, for in terms of how much you drink or whether you drink at all. So it's just, I know what works for you, and I do like alcohol every now and then, and other things. So yeah, I do it, just more sparingly than before.
Nice, man. Well, like I said, it's been a real pleasure. What we'll do is we'll drop his socials in the description here. So whoever's watching this, make sure you go and follow this man. You'll see his progress. You'll see his dance TikTok soon, and I'm sure you will see his body strong numbers. They're going to be seriously impressive. But yeah, let's cut it there. I think it's been a pretty hefty conversation, but also a very valuable one as well. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Mark.
Are we doing the handshake thing again?
You want to do the handshake? We'll do it again, man. Oh, there you go. Nice. All right, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you on episode 6 next week.